order. Tracy, can we start with roll call? Oh, are we recording?
Chair Thigpen,
Here.
Vice Chair Haddad Bennett,
Present.
Member Dr. Aldaba,
Present.
Dr. Holmes Suttons,
Present.
Member Richards,
Present.
Member Salcido, Member Shantae Rosales, Member Stern, Member Whitaker,
Present.
Right, we'll go into the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Now moving right along to the consent agenda. Oh, public comment, never mind. Sorry, I'm new to all this. Do we have any public comment in the boardroom? Any public comment online?
we do not.
Right. Now we'll go into consent agenda. Do I have any motion to approve or discussion?
Motion to approve.
Member Homestead, second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
against? Motion passes unanimously. Moving right along, we have the SPCSA Charter School Governing Body Governance Standards, and I believe this month it is Member Whitaker's turn.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
A little low, but we can hear you.
Okay, I'll try to speak up. Okay, for the governance standard this month, I have chose commit to long-term success, and specifically pulling out, I think it's the third or fourth bullet, understanding the state public charter school authorities' strategic plan and priorities and work to create alignment between the authority's goals and the school's goals. And I specifically pulled this out because I think it's important for the board to take into consideration when staff is making recommendation. It's important that this board regularly revisits the performance standards. I think these standards are not just a compliance tool, they're a roadmap for long-term success. And I think it's important for us to always reconsider what staff is recommending based off of the performance standards that this board has approved of. And then finally, an additional point was regularly assessing the board's effectiveness in meetings, these governance standards, and achieving strategic goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Whitaker. All right, we'll go to agenda item number 5, the SPCSA Executive Director's Report. Over to you, Director McAdam.
All right, thank you, Melissa McAdam, for the record. I think as a former school leader, this is the time of year where I start having dreams about school starting, and I show up and the school is like not set up and I don't know where anyone is and things like that. So my mind has been a lot on like, it's time, all these people are out there getting ready for school to start. And so I wanted to highlight one of the things that's really important that sort of goes under noticed, I think, sometimes at schools, and that is a productive drop-off and pickup procedure. And so I asked the site evaluation team to give me some names. That's one of the things they look at. And so I asked them to tell me some schools that did a really good job doing that. And so they named Matter, Mountain Vista, East, and Bonanza. These 3 Matter campuses take safe school pickup and drop-off to the next level. Due to planning ahead for success, the school's process appeared well organized, secure, and student-friendly. Protocols were shared with families at the beginning of the school year, so expectations and traffic rules appeared to be well understood. They also named Somerset Lone Mountain school, and they said about that school drop-off lanes were well marked and followed by family members. Families knew where to drive and in which direction, which sounds basic, but it's not. Drivers maintained a slower speed. And young students had rear car doors open for them. So those are just a few things that they were able to point out that, you know, I think is a really important procedure that we just sort of forget about, especially if it's working well. So that was my school highlight for today. Included in your memo was the delinquent schools report. I don't have any update really on that, just keeping track month over month for you. Happy to answer questions if you have any. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight for you was the pre-kindergarten manual that we have recently finished. During the 2024-2025 school year, the SPCSA had 2 schools offering pre-kindergarten seats, Matter Academy and Coral Academy. The SPCSA does have one contractor, Connie Zeller, who supports these schools as a member of the school support team under the leadership of Marina Cutler. In January 2025, this board approved the transfer of sponsorship of Rainbow Dreams Early Learning Academy from Clark County School District to the SPCSA. Rainbow Dreams serves over 200 pre-kindergarten students. Then during the 2025 legislative session, the number of pre-kindergarten seats available through Nevada Ready Pre-K was expanded. So we are adding additional schools in our portfolio will be offering pre-kindergarten this year as well. So to ensure with that growth, we thought it was really important that to ensure high quality programming and maintain transparency and equity, the SPCSA has completed its pre-kindergarten manual, which is aligned to match the standards outlined in the Nevada Ready Pre-K Procedures Manual. The SPCSA manual also outlines the purpose and the process by which schools in the SPCSA portfolio can add pre-K seats. Adding pre-K seats requires executive director approval, and again, that process is outlined within the manual. Additionally, the manual outlines quality program requirements to define how our pre-K programs achieve and maintain a 5-star status, including teacher qualifications, student eligibility, curriculum expectations, and a developmentally appropriate environment. Research indicates that high-quality pre-K programs have a significant impact on the school readiness, enhancing early literacy, math, and social-emotional skills. Long-term studies also link pre-K attendance to better academic achievement, higher graduation rates, and reduced need for special education or grade retention. The SPCSA staff is happy to see more schools in our portfolio offering this programming. And with that, I will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director McAdam, and kudos to the team for taking on the manual. I know when we absorbed those schools, it was kind of like, how do we measure everything? So great job. I'll bring it to the boardroom for questions. It looks like we have one.
Member Homestead, I had a couple of questions, if I may, specifically regarding the manual. Under section 3.3, class size and ratios, I was curious as to the choice for 1 to 10, acknowledging that what I've typically seen and what I believe may continue to be into 2025 for the state is 1 to 18.
Director Mackin, for the record, I'm stumbling because I actually don't know the answer. My understanding is that all of that was taken directly from the Nevada QRIS, like their requirements, but I will, and I would text Marina right now and ask her, but she's out today. So I will get an answer to you and get back to you on that because I can't answer that.
I appreciate you. If I may, Member Homestead, going to my apologies. I want to reference the section so you know where I am.
Yeah, that'd be great because I
have
probably
my
can't
question.
answer this either. So when I go back to her, I will be able to say these are the sections.
Appreciate you. Section 3.8, serving all students, specifically considering those students who may be considered or accepted with identified special education diagnosis. When it says in the first, second, third paragraph that the classrooms will ensure that appropriate supports are provided so that children meet their IEP goals, I was curious as to whether or not that included having someone with special education credentials specifically in early childhood.
Melissa Mackinnon, for the record, certainly I think it includes anything that's in their IEP, but I also think by default that does include that, right? In Nevada, you have to have a special ed endorsement to be teaching special education. So certainly do think that is part of the requirements, but I'll get some specifics from Marina and I'll respond to you in an email.
And Member Homestead, my last question was just curiosity around whether any of the schools who are considering offering preschool programs were considering early childhood inclusion as a separate programming in pre-K and or any self-contained pre-K programs that would address any more profound diagnoses that require such.
Melissa Mackinnon, for the record, I do think I can answer this one. No, none of these schools are going to have a self-contained program that I've been made aware of, and I think I would have been made aware of that. So certainly there will be kids with special needs in those classrooms, but it's not going to be a self-contained high needs situation.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Member Holmes Sutton. Any other questions in the boardroom? Any questions online? Right. Thank you very much. I guess a follow-up question I have, Director Mackinnon, with some of the concerns that Member Holmes Sutton brought up. Will you be bringing the manual back again just to say we worked through these things, or?
I can, or I can just send out an email. I think that would probably be the easiest way to do it.
That sounds good to me. I know nothing on this agenda item is for action, so I'm treading cautiously.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just want to keep everyone up to date as that, we're going to have approximately 450 pre-K seats in our portfolio, which is awesome. So hasn't really been something we've spent a lot of time discussing because it was such a small number of kids prior to now. But at this point, I think we need to kind of spend a little time bringing it to everyone's attention that we're out here doing this work.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 6, we're bringing it over to Dr. Broughton for the State Public Charter School Authority Performance Framework Revisions.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Board. We are going to go over basically a carve out of the academic performance framework. I do, just before we get into it, want to clarify this doesn't change anything in the framework for all of our schools except one. So at this moment, this is just really specific to one school that has been part of the development of what we're going to go over, but we are not changing anything for our other schools. So nothing here applies to them. But we are in a unique situation in that we now have a school in our portfolio that as it stands will never receive an NSPF rating. And without an NSPF rating, we're not able to also give them an SPCSA performance framework academic rating. And so in order to sort of work around that, we're presenting an option for schools that offer early childhood education only. That would be grades K through, 3, but 2. Right now, it's a school that just offers kindergarten. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Gaitan, who will go over that.
Greetings, members of the authority. My name is Brandon Gaitan. Today, we're going to present a recommendation regarding revisions to the SPCSA Academic Performance Framework. Nevada state law requires charter school sponsors like the SPCSA to include academic, financial, and organizational performance frameworks in charter contracts. As such, the SPCSA has adopted the SPCSA Academic, Financial, and Organizational Performance Frameworks. We come before you today, as Dr. Broughton has mentioned, with a proposal to update the academic framework to rate additional schools. Under the current SPCSA academic framework, a school only receives a rating if they first receive a Nevada School Performance Framework or NSPF star rating from the Nevada Department of Education. Certain SPCSA schools that serve only early childhood grades, that being kindergarten, grades 1, 2, and/or 3, do not receive an NSPF rating due to the lack of grade 3 through 8 state assessment proficiency and/or growth data, and therefore they do not receive an SPCSA academic framework rating. When an SPCSA school does not have NSPF or SPCSA academic framework rating data, it is difficult for the SPCSA to evaluate its academic performance for the purposes of authorizing decisions such as charter contracts, charter contract amendments, renewals, etc. So therefore, SPCSA staff propose an addendum to the standard SPCSA academic framework where such schools are subject to an SPCSA K3 academic framework described in summary on the following slide and in detail in the technical manual attached to this agenda item. This proposed K3 academic framework would use data available for and specific to K3 grade levels, and it would provide additional academic data for such schools. In drafting this proposal, SPCSA staff incorporated feedback from relevant charter school leaders and staff, as well as the Nevada Department of Education Office of Early Learning and Development. Here is an overview of the K3 framework proposal. At the top in blue is the kindergarten entry assessment indicator. SPCSA schools subject to this proposed K3 framework would be evaluated on 11 measures under this indicator, worth up to 4 points each, that calculate the percent of kindergarten students meeting or exceeding expectations on academically related measures for a spring checkpoint of the Nevada kindergarten entry assessment. In the middle in green is the Read by Grade 3 assessment indicator. SPCSA schools subject to this proposed K3 framework would be evaluated on current year proficiency and growth on the Read by Grade 3 assessment. And additionally, such SPCSA schools would have their Read by Grade 3 proficiency and growth compared to schools in the SPCSA schools zip code. This portion of the proposed framework is similar to that of the standard approved academic framework, where an SPCSA school NSPF score is compared to the average NSPF score of schools in their zip code. Also note that Read by Grade 3 growth measures are weighted more than proficiency measures here, which is aligned with the growth proficiency weightings in the NSPF. Finally, towards the bottom, the chronic absenteeism reduction and mission-specific goals indicators, along with the overall score table, are exactly identical to the standard approved academic framework, so we will not discuss those further at this time. In summary, this proposed K3 framework would allow additional schools to receive academic framework ratings data, which will help the SPCSA better evaluate such schools' academic performance for the purposes of authorizing decisions such as charter contract amendments, renewals, etc. A proposed motion is displayed here on the slide. And we're happy to take any questions before that is possibly taken.
Thank you very much. We'll bring it back to the boardroom. Any questions from my colleagues? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair Haddad Bennett. So just a question. Any conversations with the State Board of Ed or with NDE about incorporating this like grade band or sort of this like gray area, I guess, into the NSPF?
Katie Broughton for the record. We worked with NDE on getting this approved and getting their feedback on what we've presented here to you today. We did not address potential changes to the NSPF as a result of something like this. However, there is an NSPF and district accountability working group that is set to start at the conclusion of the legislative session. We plan to have a representative on that team. So if there's discussion around this, we're certainly happy to bring that back to the board if it's relevant.
Any other questions from colleagues in the boardroom? Questions online? I do have one brief question on the Read by Grade 3 assessment. I know in the past, briefly, that program was defunded during COVID. Do we have any, with it being an assessment that we would be looking at, should that program go away again in the future? Does that affect anything? Or I don't know if we even anticipate that, but it's just a question I had.
So Katie Broughton for the record. So read by grade 3 is an assessment required by law, and as such, NDE does pay for it. One shift is that coming out of the legislative session, there is a change that allows schools to potentially choose from different read by grade 3 assessment options. In the past, they've only had MAP, which NDE paid for the required portions of MAP that satisfied the read by grade 3. Now schools have some additional options, but they would have to pay for anything that is other than MAP. And then within the technical guide, we do have a note there about how this would adjust if a school chooses to use an additional assessment. Essentially, short story long, if they choose that, if for NDE to choose an additional assessment, they'll have to do a comparison to the ones that are already selected. So we would use that comparison to then compare that data to what we have presented here. So there is a note in there about what would happen in that situation, but NDE does pay for this assessment because it's required by state law.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Thigpen, I just want to go on the record and say it's our understanding that the presentations are not showing up on YouTube. Well, if people are watching on YouTube, it's okay. It's because they are online. But we do just want people who may be watching to know that they can access this and follow along by opening the document directly from our website. So I just wanted to put that out on the record.
Thank you very much. If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion.
Member Holmes Sutton, I propose that we approve the revisions to the SPCSA Academic Performance Framework as outlined in the documents attached to this agenda item to include a process to rate SPCSA schools that only serve grades K, 1, 2, and or 3.
Have a second?
Board Member Iberaldava, I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Broughton and your team. All right, moving right along to agenda item number 7, the charter school contract amendment applications. And Mr. Peltier, I think you're up.
Thank you, Chair Thigpen. Danny Peltier for the record. Western Youth Leadership Engagement and Empowerment School, Wiley's, has submitted an amendment application requesting that the SPCSA grant a good cause exemption and approve the school's request to occupy a temporary facility for the first part of their school year. Wiley's was approved by the authority at the August 23rd, 2024 board meeting. Wiley's will be opening for the 25-26 school year and serve grades 6 through 8. The school is approved to operate at 3634 Maryland Parkway in the 89169 zip code. According to the amendment application, Wiley's is requesting the option to occupy a temporary facility while this permanent facility is completed. According to Wiley's, the permanent facility is close to completion, and the school cannot be certain at this point that all required inspections will be completed and that a certificate of occupancy or a TCO will be issued in time for Wiley's scheduled first day of school on August 4th. Though Wiley's is optimistic that the occupancy will be issued by this date, the school decided to submit this amendment request out of an abundance of caution to ensure that Wiley's students, families, and staff are able to begin school as currently scheduled. Additionally, according to the amendment application, Wiley's has made arrangements with the Cambridge Recreation Center, which is located at 3930 Cambridge Street in 89119 zip code, about 0.8 miles away from the permanent Wiley's facility, for a week-to-week lease of space for Wiley's 204 enrolled students. With a daily rate of about $460 and space for students only needed for 4 days per week, the school estimates this to about $1,840 per week, which according to the school is well within the available budget. As I stated before, this is more or less a contingency plan. All things that we've kind of heard from the school show that the school most likely will be in there on August 4th, but if they are unable to, they would be at the Cambridge Center. So staff does recommend approval with condition. A proposed motion can be found on page 2 of your recommendation memo. Happy to take any questions on behalf of staff, and I do believe that there may be some folks from Wiley's either in the room or online right now. Thanks.
Thanks, Danny. All right, we'll bring it into the boardroom. Do I have any questions from my colleagues? Any questions online? I have one question, and I thank you, Danny, for mentioning how the proximity of the temporary location from what their permanent one will be less than a mile away puts me at ease a little bit. This could be a question for staff or for school leadership, but have they communicated to families that have signed up of the possible temporary location? I know in the past when we've had to do these, we've seen depending on circumstances, a drop in enrollment as a result. So that's my only concern.
For the record, Danny Peltier, in the amendment application, they did note that the staff had worked with students and families regarding this possibility, but I would defer to Mr. Tack if he's there to kind of give you all an update as to further feedback that he may have received since the submission of the amendment.
Good morning, Mike Tack, CEO and founder of Wiley's, Western Youth Leadership Engagement and Empowerment School. Thank you for the question. We have put out a communication to our families by email to share the status of the situation. And on Tuesday and ongoing for the next few Tuesdays, we have listening sessions in person at the Boulevard Mall, which is adjacent to our campus. We had one grandparent show up for the listening session on Tuesday. And she was just more curious about where the space would be eventually and if we had any updates. We've spoken to just a handful of folks. Most of the emails that we've received are very positive. They're optimistic as we are that we'll be in our permanent facility on time, but they've expressed excitement to start wherever we are starting, whether that's at the Cambridge Rec Center or at our permanent facility. So no impact to enrollment that we've seen so far. And again, just kind of positive feeling from the community so far.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Before we do a motion, any other questions for my colleagues? All right, I will entertain a motion.
Board Member Ibaraldava, I motion to grant Wiley's good cause exemption request and approve Wiley's request to occupy a temporary facility with the following conditions. If the temporary facility is needed, work with SPCSA staff to identify and complete relevant pre-opening requirements.
Member Holmsiden, second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving right along to agenda item number 8, the report on site evaluations. I think this is up to Dr. Ozdemir.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Tinkpan, and then members of the board. My name is Selçuk Ozdemir. I'm the Manager of Academic Performance here at the SPCSA. Today, we will present an overview of the 2024-25 school year site evaluations. This is the first part of our annual presentation to this body. We will be back at the August board meeting, and we will present the plan for upcoming year's site evaluations and share updates. For today's presentations, we will focus on last school year's site evaluations and provide you an overview of the site evaluation process. We will also dive into some details such as common trends and site evaluation related feedback from school leaders. Next slide, please. Thank you. Before I introduce my team, I'd like to take a moment to thank our board for your continuous guidance and support. Also, a special thank you to Dr. McAdam for her leadership and to Dr. Broughton for her invaluable help and supervision. Over the past year, my team conducted 63 site evaluations. This is no small accomplishment. Site evaluations are a complex process that require meticulous attention to detail and can be extremely labor intensive. Successfully completing them would not be possible without a highly competent, dedicated, and professional team. I'm proud and grateful to work alongside such a team, which I'd like to introduce. After the introduction, I will turn it over to them for their presentations. We have 2 team members based in North, including myself. I'm joined by Karen Gordon, who is in our Carson City office. Dr. Dennis Shah, who is out this week, but will join us for the next presentation in August. In the boardroom with you today are John Plutin and Gretchen Fahler, and of course, Dina Wilson, our administrative assistant, who plays a critical role in supporting site evaluations throughout the year. And with that, I'll hand it over to John to get us started with the presentations. Next slide, please.
For the record, John Pelton, good morning, members of the board. In today's presentation, we'll provide an overview of the items listed on the slide. Thank you, Dr. Ozdemir, for introducing our site evaluation team and addressing the first item on the list. As you can see, the items on the list include SPCSA's core value, excellence through improvement, review of the site evaluation requirements, purpose and focus, site evaluation overview, common trends from last school year, moving forward towards this upcoming school year, and we'll conclude with a questions and summary section. Next slide, please. An SPCSA core value is excellence through improvement, which is referenced in our SPCSA's current strategic plan. As a team, we actively reflect on our practices and foster a growth mindset. Reviewing feedback is crucial to our team's growth. The site evaluation team embeds these core values through comprehensive, accurate site evaluation reports. Next slide, please. Legal requirements is crucial that that we highlight these and we take time to share the 3 that's on the screen there. They're central to our evaluation process. Compliance with the Nevada revised statutes, and a few are listed as you can see. And it's integral to the process of the site evaluation to ensure effective oversight and monitoring of sponsored charter schools. As you can see, especially we want to highlight the one on the very bottom, which says the last one references our role in working with schools that have deficiencies or strong recommendations, and we address them through response plans. Okay, could the next slide, please? At this time, we'd like to look at the purpose of the site evaluation, and there are bulleted items on the screen, which underscores the site evaluation process. You can refer to them, but I'll just read them quickly. One is to exercise oversight, gathering formal and anecdotal evidence, enhance the SPCSA's monitoring of sponsored schools, document strengths of schools, progress towards goals, and opportunities to improve. Leverage best practices of well-established, highly recognized authorizers, inform high-stakes recommendations such as renewals and amendments. All information gathered provide a resource for the board and their decisions. Additionally, we take great pride in celebrating successes. Next, we have Ms. Gordon taking the next portion, and thank you.
Good morning, Karen Gordon for the record. Site evaluations are focused on 2 areas. Our primary focus is on a school's success at having strong academic performance outcomes, which tends to take place when classrooms have strong instructional delivery on a consistent basis. A secondary focus is on a school's organizational effectiveness and dedication to their approved charter contract. Next slide, please. There are 2 types of site evaluations conducted. The first, on the left side of the screen, are called comprehensive evaluations. These take place every other year of a school's contract, beginning in the first year of operation and continuing through years 3 and 5. We conduct abbreviated or shortened evaluations for schools having a 4-star and 5-star rating per the NSPF in year 3. The second type of site evaluation is outlined for you on the right side of the screen. These targeted evaluations take place in circumstances where a school may require additional oversight. For example, if a previous deficiency or strong recommendation was issued, if a school has a 1 or 2-star NSPF rating, or if a school is operating under an academic or organizational notice of concern or breach. Next slide, please. After each site evaluation is conducted at a school, the team works to prepare a site evaluation report. All site evaluation reports are published on the SPCSA website for public review. Next slide. I'll summarize what happens before, during, and after the site evaluation. Once the date of the site evaluation has been confirmed with the school, a pre-site meeting, including the site evaluation team and school leadership team, takes place. We believe this to be important as introductions are made, questions are asked and answered, and relationships begin to form. Once during the meeting, a schedule for the day of the evaluation is agreed upon and based on what works best for the school. The site evaluation team conducts research and data analysis to best understand the most up-to-date information about a school, as well as a review of recent board meetings, and then develops questions for 5 different focus groups. On the right side of the screen is a list of items the school is asked to do prior to the evaluation. These include submitting 2 items to Epicenter, the focus group template with a list of attendees, and a slide presentation about the school. Next slide, please. On the day of the site evaluation team usually spends about 8 or 9 hours at the school. With the day is busy with several 30 to 45-minute focus groups, which consist of leaders, board members, families, staff, and students, as well as classroom observations, taking about 15 minutes each. The team observes at least 1 classroom at each grade level and attempts to observe about 75% of all classrooms. A standardized classroom observation rubric is used for all evaluations. The team conducts routine checks of safety measures such as up-to-date fire extinguishers and elevator permits. At the end of the day, the site evaluation team members gather and compile all information and then conduct a debriefing session with the school's leadership team. The post work is comprised of creating an intensive 25 to 35-page report. The report contains focus group summaries, an analysis of classroom observational data, and sections dedicated to the strengths, challenges, and recommendations for the school. The final draft of the report is sent to the school leadership team, their board, and our board, and then the report is posted on the SPCSA website. The site evaluation team offers to attend a school's board meeting where it is recommended that we review the plan. The plan is monitored and progress is recorded by the site evaluation team every 3 months. Next slide, please. I'll hand it over to Selçuk.
Thank you, Karen. Selçuk Özdemir for the record. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we conducted 63 site evaluation last year. On this slide, you can see the list of the schools. These are the site evaluations that were conducted in the first semester of 2024-25. Schools with 1 asterisk are new or just renewed, so they are in their first year of their charter contract, and schools with 2 asterisks were targeted site evaluations. Next slide, please. And this is the list of site evaluations were conducted in the second semester of 2024-25. Again, schools with 1 asterisk are the new schools or just renewed. So they are in their first year of their charter contract, and schools with 2 asterisks were targeted site evaluations. Next slide, please. I will now present some data from 2024-25 site evaluation school visits. Evaluations took place between September 2024 and April 2025. The number of schools the site evaluation team visited were like 63, as I mentioned. The team observed 903 elementary school classrooms, 358 middle school classrooms, and 211 high school classrooms for a total of 1,477 observed classrooms. For comparison, the site evaluation team conducted 34 site evaluation during 2023-24 academic year, and we observed back then is 804 classrooms in total. So we almost doubled the classroom observations. 9 schools received strong recommendations and 11 schools received deficiencies from the site evaluation team. Each site evaluation conducted by the team of at least 2 SPCSA staff members, and each site evaluation requires an average of 50 to 55 staff hours. All schools with charter year contracts first, third, and fifth year were evaluated as scheduled last year. And then also follow-up site evaluations were conducted for the schools with deficiencies and strong recommendations. Site evaluation reports are available on the SPCSA website for public access. And then also we included the link here, but charterschools.nv.gov, definitely there's more information on all those individual reports can be found in our website. For the next slide, I will pass it over to Gretchen.
Good morning, Gretchen Failer for the record. A little bit more about the site evaluation experience. The SPCSA aims to provide a high-quality site evaluation experience by utilizing effective communication, providing meaningful feedback, building strong relationships with stakeholders. The SPCSA site evaluation team strives to meet each of these expectations by weaving the 3 key elements through each step of the site evaluation process. Pre-site evaluation, the site evaluation day at the school, and the post-site evaluation. Next slide, please. This slide illustrates 2 sample site evaluation day schedules. Schedules are determined by the site evaluation leader and school leader to accommodate the daily schedule of the school. The site evaluation team strives to be as inobtrusive as possible, with minimal to no disruption of the school's daily flow. Next slide, please. The following are some responses the site evaluation team has received from school leaders during the 24-25 school year. Some of the comments are, thank you so much for the feedback and providing our team a positive and productive learning experience during this process. Thanks for the thorough and well-written report. We find no factual inaccuracies and feel that the report was well-balanced and fair. Your recommendations will serve as fodder for discussion, debate, and professional development for the next several months. I just wanted to thank you and your team for your participation in yesterday's board meeting and for all of the support, kind words, encouragement, and belief that you have in us at YWLA. It means so much that we are seen and recognized for all the hard work and effort that we are doing. The job was not easy, but having the support of the SPCSA and Academica has made it that less challenging and strenuous. Next slide, please. A few more responses from school leaders. Thank you for your thoughtful and thorough review of our school. I feel like you captured the essence of Horizon and gave us great feedback to continue our improvement and refinement efforts. It was a pleasure to have you at our campus and to share our school with you. There is a lot of great information and feedback in here that can guide us on our next steps. I really appreciate the time and care that you took for our school. And we appreciate the feedback and will use this information to make improvements. Next slide, please. Here are some common trends that we saw in schools during the 24-25 school year. Some strengths that we observed. We observed positive relationships between students and staff, intentional focus on data to drive instruction from leaders and teachers, strong leadership teams and well-defined goals and visions, an overall positive middle school performance on the NSPF. We observed increased graduation rates and increased participation in college and career readiness. And we saw schools implementing tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction consistently and more evidence of small group instruction. On the right-hand side, we saw some areas for improvement trending in the schools. There was the challenge of recruiting and retaining staff, the challenge of reducing chronic absenteeism rates, schools working on improving star ratings on Nevada's school performance framework from 1 or 2 star, building instructional capacity in staff through targeted observations and professional development, refining school-wide systems and structures of tiered support, both academically and behaviorally. We saw schools working on the timely submission of compliance-related items and timely responses to the site evaluation personnel. Schools were challenged by increasing enrollment diversity to be more representative of the SPCSA in free and reduced lunch populations, special education populations, and English language learner populations. We saw schools working on increasing science proficiency on the Nevada School Performance Framework in elementary school, and the challenges of supporting students' social emotional needs. Next slide, please. Moving forward, our focus is on continuous improvement and the SPCSA core value of excellence through improvement, which serves as a pillar for the site evaluation team. And we are excited to enhance our practice of conducting quality site evaluations for this coming school year. The site evaluation team reviews feedback from anecdotal notes, data collected from school leadership teams, and feedback received from leaders annually to ensure a growth mindset. We are looking forward to the 25-26 school year. And now I'll hand it back over to John.
John Pillison for the record. As we conclude the summary of today's presentation, we reviewed the site evaluation requirements, purpose and focus, site evaluation overview, common trends from the last school year, list of schools, feedback from school leaders, and also focusing our work as we move forward. Next slide, please. Again, we thank you for your time, and at this portion, we can open ourselves to any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, site evaluation team. I know that this was not an easy feat, especially 63 out of what are 80 plus schools now. So thank you for all that you do and for this really comprehensive report. I'll bring it back to the board. Any questions from my colleagues in the boardroom?
Member Richards for the record. So first of all, thank you. It's a lot. I absolutely can understand the work involved here. I do have one question. When you went to the focus groups, I think on slide 16, the student focus groups and the family focus groups, the teacher, how are those students and families selected?
Karen Gordon for the record. The students, the leaders, and the families are all selected by the leader of the school. The staff is randomly selected by our team. So we randomly select members of the staff to participate in the staff focus group.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I saw your pen moving. Go ahead.
My pen is always moving. Thank you, Vice Chair Haddad Bennett. So curious if there was anything surprising in the trends. I think that's slide 19. Anything you weren't expecting? And then I do have a follow-up question.
Selçuk Özdemir for the record. Thank you, Vice Chair. Nothing is very surprising, like chronic absenteeism, some proficiency, challenging recruiting and retaining staff. These are unfortunately bigger issues, not just for our portfolio, but for the entire state, actually for the entire nation. But I would like to also give a chance to my team if they want to chip in.
Karen Gordon for the record. One of the, I don't know if it's surprising, but it's really admirable, the way that a lot of our school leaders put their heart and soul into the success of the school and are able to rally a team around them to serve students the best they possibly can.
Great. That's really helpful. Thank you.
I do have one,
Oh, sorry,
John
go ahead.
Pelton, for the record. One thing that I don't want to say surprising, but was really gave me some perspective for our rural schools that we visited. Many of the families in the focus groups and the students, they would sacrifice missing school days just to make sure they can get to city centers for medical related reasons. And, that had our team reflecting, of some challenges, unique challenges with rural schools. So that was kind of a aha for me. Thank you for listening.
No, that's really helpful. I appreciate that. And I guess I'm curious, knowing that there's the site visit school and the evaluation team, and then I'm not sure if those are the same folks that are providing the supports to schools, but just curious, like, what's the intersection of those things look like, seeing this list? How are we taking this to inform, I guess, the type of support that schools are getting?
Melissa Mackin for the record. I'll jump in and then if Dr. Ozdemir wants to add on. So that's a great question because they are in fact not the same team who offers school support. I mean, when you look at how many schools they're doing, like it's a full-time job. So so Marina Cutler's team is actually what we consider our school support team. And this is just kind of one of the ongoing challenges that the agency is constantly sort of contending with, like as we grow more schools, as our staff grows, how can we better weave in sort of what the site evaluation, like how can we make sure that everyone's not just operating in silos? And so I think you'll hear, that's a great preview because what you're going to hear about, and I'm not going to steal the thunder and say too much about it, we'll let them do that next month, but next month, they're going to talk about sort of some changes that we're going to be making next year on site evaluations that will get to exactly addressing some of what you're asking about. So stay tuned for next month. I think you'll see that we're making some changes to help us stop sort of operating in these little silos as much as we can.
Member Home Sutton, first I'd like to appreciate you and acknowledge rate just on site over 500 to 600 hours spent and 3,500 hours when you're averaging, acknowledging that it's probably even more than the 3,500 that you all are spending. So thank you so much for your attention to detail and for your leadership in this work. My question was around the targeted site evaluations and if there was a differential in terms of the amount of time or what the differential is in the amount of time that you spend on average at the site visits and support for the schools that are not targeted.
Thank you for the question, Selçuk Özdemir, for the record. So basically for the targeted site evaluations are specifically for those level we call elementary, middle, or high. So we approach this looking at the previous year's data, previous year's site evaluations. What is the deficiency or strong recommendation specifically? If this is for elementary school only, academic, and it can be proficiency, chronic absenteeism. we try to spend a chunk of the day within that level only. So more like a laser focus to the point site evaluation. We still look at the school as a general, but whatever that deficiency is coming from the previous year or strong recommendations, we would like to spend more time in that classrooms, let's say elementary classrooms. Our focus questions, the focus group questions are more to that whatever the specific deficiency or strong recommendation. But I like to give a chance to my team also to speak.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from board colleagues in the boardroom? Any questions online? Okay. Well, thank you all for the report. I'm very much looking to part 2 in August. So thank you. All right, moving along to agenda item number 9, the charter school application process. Back to you, Dr. Broughton.
All right, thank you, Chair Thigpen and board. I am going to conduct the annual charter application training for the board. As a reminder, next meeting in August, we will bring you a series of recommendations regarding the new charter applications that we have received. At this time, we are working through 7 new charter applications. And so we will bring recommendations to you regarding those applications in August. So this statute is the requirement of what we're doing today, that the SPCSA board must complete training regarding our processes and how we evaluate the new applications. This is one of the core responsibilities of the SPCSA board. I believe that authorizing is the foundation of the work that we do. And this is related to evaluating, approving, and declining applications to form a charter school. A charter school life cycle begins with authorization. So once a charter school is approved, they are considered an authorized school. They start with a year 0, so that runs from August to the following August at this time. During that year 0 is their incubation year, their prep year. It's when they get their facility ready to go, their staff hired, students enrolled, all of the compliance stuff ready to go for the school to start. It may seem like a long time, but I think if you hear from some of our new charter leaders, they will tell you how much there really is to do in that year, and especially related to facilities that can, as we saw today, really come down to the wire. Once they are open and operating, they receive a variety of support and also oversight. That's regarding the SPCSA performance framework. Additionally, in years 1, 3, and 5 of their charter contract, they receive a site evaluation. Some may receive one, as you just saw, in additional years as well. And then in the 5th year of their charter contract, they apply for renewal. The charter contract is 6 years, so in that last year, they would apply for renewal. And then if they are renewed, they're authorized again, and the cycle starts all over. The difference is when a charter contract is renewed, their contract can be anywhere from 3 to 10 years, whereas when they're approved the first time, it's a standard 6-year contract. So the new application process is fairly long and in depth. It begins with a notice of intent, which has to be submitted by January 30th. Typically, we get more notices of intent than we do applications. While a notice of intent does not require an applicant to submit an application, in order to submit an application, they must submit a notice of intent. So we encourage anybody who may submit an application to submit a notice of intent. We meet with everybody who submits the notice of intent before they submit an application to get an idea of what the school is, where they're at in the process. We provide them some feedback regarding readiness to submit an application. They then submit an application. That current deadline is April 30th. and we immediately turn that around and do a completeness check. So we make sure that everything that's required to be submitted is submitted. If it's not, we send back what they are missing and a timeline that they have to submit those additional items in the completed application. Once an application has been deemed complete, it moves to a full review. The application is reviewed by a team of 3 people, led by an SPCSA staff member, and then we contract with a variety of people around the country who do this professionally. They are external reviewers, and each team has 2 external reviewers. At the end of the initial review of the application, so that's again just like reading through the submitted documentation, the review team comes together and compiles a list of clarifying questions that goes out to the applicant, any questions sort of that are left outstanding. That is sent to the applicant, and they have 4 business days to provide responses to those questions. We then conduct a capacity interview. The capacity interview runs about 2 hours, and it really is addressing any outstanding questions and deficiencies the review team may have. And then as a review team, we take all the information in the capacity interview, in the clarifying responses, and in the original written narrative, and we develop a recommendation to this board regarding approval or denial. And then the SPCSA lead staff member writes the recommendation memo with the support of the authorizing team that ultimately goes before the board. If an application is denied by the SPCSA board, there is an opportunity to resubmit the application. There's various timelines around that, but they essentially have 30 days to submit a red line version of their application that addresses the deficiencies that were identified in the recommendation memo. And then that resubmission goes back before the board, usually November, December. So you can see here the timeline. It starts in April 30th with the completeness check and then runs all the way to potential resubmission November or December. It depends on when we get them the letter of denial, but you can kind of see how long each thing takes. I will tell you the review of 7 applications is a significant lift for the SPCSA staff, and I've told them this, but they have made it look easy this year. So it has worked like a well-oiled machine this year. It's been very efficient. This is an application overview. This board does approve the application each year at the end of the year. So this application in its current iteration was approved by this board in December. It starts with the cover sheet, which is just general information, and then gets into the 5 major sections. The first 4, meeting the need, academic plan, operations plan, and financial plan, are required for all applicants. And then the addendum is required only for schools that plan to contract with a CMO or an EMO, or CMOs that are applying directly for sponsorship. Also within the academic plan, the last 2 sections, dual credit partnerships and programs of distance education. Dual credit partnerships are only required for high school submissions. And then programs of distance education are only required for applicants who plan to do a program of distance education. So the evaluation, so it begins with the evaluation of the written application. Each member of the review team does this independently to ensure that there's 3 objective evaluations that occur. There's a rubric that's used, and the rubric is completed by each reviewer, like I said, independently. There are certain criteria that are described within the rubric. The reviewer indicates if the application meets the standard described by the criteria, approaches, or does not meet the standard, and then rolls up those evaluation of the criteria into a rating for each subsection, which then ultimately rolls into a rating for the overall section. There are some requirements of law that must be met in the application. The first is that a charter school must aim to accomplish at least one of the following, and then it's listed there on the screen what that is. These are pretty general, and most schools typically fit one or more than one of these aims. The demographic and academic needs assessment is also a requirement. So proposed charter schools must meet the demographic and academic needs assessment, which is also approved by this board at the end of each year for the following year. So the current demographic and academic needs assessment was approved by this board in December. We have 5 demographic needs within our demographic needs section of the assessment. It's students qualifying for free or reduced price lunch or FRL, English language learners, students with disabilities, students in foster care, and students experiencing homelessness. And then we have 2 academic needs identified. So geographies with consistently underperforming schools, and so that's zip codes that have primarily 1 and 2 star schools, and students at risk of dropping out. So what we tell applicants is that in order to meet this needs assessment, their application should speak to how they meet at least one of the 5 demographic needs, or sorry, one of the 5 demographic needs or one of the 2 academic needs. That puts them in the yellow, but to get into the green would imply that they've met 1 or more of the academic needs and 1 or more of the demographic needs. And it's not simply saying we're going to serve students with IEPs. Every school does that. But really identifying one of those populations and specifically constructing your school in a way that will help those students make rapid academic growth gains. And we should see that throughout the entire application. So not just in one part saying, oh, you know, we're going to serve students who are English learners, but really then the entire application should reflect that commitment to serve those students well. Governance is another big key thing within our application. There are requirements in the law related to the charter school application and what a potential applicant must specify related to charter school governance. So that's including a description of how the charter school will be governed, governance training that will be provided to the governing body, and it also must include a code of ethics for members and employees of the governing body. We are also required to have applicants include opportunities and expectations for involving parents of students enrolled in the charter school in the operation of the charter school, including how they will solicit feedback and general ongoing feedback from parents relating to the governance of the school. They're also required to have a parent on the board. Then we get into a committee to form. So it's important to note that there is some difference between a committee to form and a traditional charter governing board. It's not the same requirements, though they are similar. And typically certain members of a committee to form will become founding members of a charter school governing board, though that's certainly not a requirement. But a committee to form has to have a teacher or person who's licensed pursuant to Chapter 391 of NRS. And then somebody who also meets that requirement or is a school administrator. There's also an opportunity for that person to hold an administrative license in another state. There has to be a parent or legal guardian who's not a teacher or employee of the proposed charter school. And it's important to note that's any parent. So that parent doesn't have to have a student that's eligible necessarily to attend this charter school. You know, the proposal's K through 3 and the parent has a student who's in 5th grade, that's okay. The school isn't actually approved, and so it would be impossible for them to have a parent of a student at the school. And then 2 members who possess knowledge or expertise in accounting, financial services, law, or human resources. And so those people can meet that criteria in any one of those 4 ways. They can also include 4 additional members. So the minimum number on a committee to form is 5 and the maximum is 9. And those additional members can be members of the general public, representatives of nonprofits or businesses, and representatives of colleges or universities within NSHE. There are certain people that cannot be on a committee to form, usually related to sort of that person potentially having financial improvements as a result of the school being authorized, but they're outlined there in the law. And then it's also important to note that a majority of the individuals on the committee to form must be residents at the time in Nevada at the time the application is submitted. So not everybody, but the majority. Also, one of the requirements is that as the SPCSA, we must establish standards and provide training regarding governance standards. All of those standards, a list of approved vendors, everything else you can find at the link here that takes us that would take you to the SPCSA page that's about board governance, includes our governance standards, includes a list of approved trainers, and includes various governance trainings that we have given over the years. That's, I guess, the end. Any questions from the board?
Member Holmes-Sutton.
Member Holmes-Sutton, if I may, around clarification, I think slide 7 is what I'm looking at with the application process approximate timeline, specifically on the completeness check. Clarification, when school leadership receives the completion check, they have 4 business days.
48 hours on the completeness check.
48 hours. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And then my second question was around capacity interviews. Those are the ones that are recorded and provided for the board colleagues to review. Would you clarify who is expected to participate in the capacity interview?
Yes, we expect the every person who's listed as either a member of the committee to form or a member of the proposed board. So sometimes applicants will say, you know, oh, Jane Smith doesn't have the capacity to serve on the committee to form, but she has committed to being a proposed board member if the school is approved. So it's section 1.2 of our application, but everybody identified in that section is either a member of the committee to form or on the proposed board is expected to participate, as well as the entire review team. Sometimes somebody's unable to participate, they've a medical incident or, you know, something else to attend to. So there are some times where somebody is unable to make it, but for the most part, that's our expectation, and most applicants have all those people there.
Thank you. And then my last question, I believe, if I may, is around the board itself. Are there any stipulations as to how many members may be a part of the board?
We do not have that stipulated. That is one of the things that we look at in the makeup of the board that's provided in the narrative. So within the written application, the applicant will usually include, you know, our board will be at least 5 people up to like they'll provide sort of their own cap. They also provide their bylaws, which should match that. So their or the proposed bylaws rather. So we do look that matches, and we look that that's you know, makes sense. Sometimes if it's like, you know, the cap of the board is 25, that might be something we would ask in a clarifying question. Like, that seems like a lot of people on a board. Why is that the route that you've chosen?
Member Holmes-Sutton, yet again. So that led me to another question, and that is regarding the diversity and representation on the board. Is there any recommendation and/or advice provided to schools around what that diversity and representation should look like in regards to the demographics of the school that will be served?
So our recommendation is that the board match the demographics or the proposed demographics of the proposed school. So it's usually going to be matches the demographics of that community, because obviously they don't know what the school's demographics are yet. And then if especially if they've identified that as something that's going to happen, oftentimes if we don't see it clearly, we'll ask, and I'll just say the application I reviewed, that was one of the questions we actually asked in the clarifying questions, is what is the demographic makeup of the board and how does that align with the makeup of the proposed areas to serve. So
that led me to yet another question. I appreciate your patience so much, Member Holmes-Sutton. So acknowledging that I serve on other boards, and yearly we are asked to provide our own information. It's optional, certainly, for the opportunity to do that. But is there a consideration and/or already in place a request for schools to provide the composition of their boards with regards to diversity and representation?
We collect a lot of information on the school's boards, but at this time we do not require that, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board colleagues in the boardroom? Go ahead.
Member Richards, I just have a quick question. When you go back to when they go to the completeness check, do do potential applications at that point kind of decide that they don't want to move forward? And if so, as you mentioned, do they have to give a timeline when they might want to move forward?
So there are times where an application is submitted that's very incomplete. We did not have any examples of it this year, but in the last year's cycle, upon realizing what would need to be collected in 48 hours, we did have 2 or 3 applicants that withdrew at that point. They don't have to, if they say that they don't want to move forward, that's really the end of it. And we say, thank you so much for your time. If they choose to withdraw at that time, an applicant can choose to withdraw at any time during this process.
Thank you.
Any questions online? I have one question around the part where it said that majority of board members must live in Nevada. I'm just curious why we don't make it required that all board members or form committee members have to live in the state.
Well, the NRS is that the majority, and I think part of it is important to remember is that there are times where we see replication schools. So, charter schools that have been successful somewhere else come to Las Vegas or another part of Nevada, and they would want to have representatives from those schools be on those committees to form. And I think it would be a lot to ask them to also move to Nevada to do that.
Gotcha. I think, and we don't usually see that transfer into then they become a board member later on.
They, depending on the role that they have, they can, and there are some boards that have representatives who don't live in Nevada on their boards. Some people, they lived in Nevada at the time they were appointed to the board. They've been a great board member. They move and they want to stay on the board. That happens. There's various, reasons it may occur, but we do have our boards. There are boards at our schools in which not everybody lives in Nevada as well.
Okay. I was thinking back to a previous school that we had an issue with, so that's why it came up. All right. Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions, so I think we'll move on to the long-range calendar and proposed meeting dates for agenda item number 10. Director McAdam.
Okay. Melissa McAdam for the record. We did include this month the calendar for next year because we're 6 months away or less from 2026. So that calendar is in there. There are a few dates that we may end up having to have our meeting on a Thursday. So please, once we get that solidified, we're checking on a few things. Once we get that solidified, I will highlight those for you next month when it's a for sure thing, just because I know that's going to throw a little bit of a wrench in, but those are like a year away. So hopefully people have enough time to plan. But that really is the main kind of oddity here. And other than that, please, again, continue to let us know if you're going to be gone for a meeting. I know we're going to have at least one absence next month. So please just let us know so that we don't, end up without a quorum. And if you guys don't have any questions, that's all we got for that.
Thank you very much. Last one, agenda item number 11, public comment. I don't see anyone in the boardroom. Do we have any public comment online?
We do not. We did receive 2 public comments via email in writing and posted those in our support documents online.
Thank you very much. Well, that's it for my first meeting. Thank you all, and we will go ahead and adjourn at 10:18 a.m. Have a great weekend.